morning and welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television, where we keep you updated with the happenings on the front page of the paper. One of the stories that is making the round on most of the paper is the approval of the 2025 budget of 54.99 trillion naira that was passed yesterday into law by the Joint House, talking about the House of the Senate as well as the House of Reps. So we will be looking at other stories. I'll be backing this big story on our paper. Please do well to follow through with the stories. Drop your comment, drop your views on any of this event that is of interest to you. I am Selen Lashidasham. I'll be doing this program together with Rachel Tansi. Good morning.
Good morning, Selen.
All right, we will start with the paper, starting with the Nation newspaper.
The first story on the Nation: alleged 6 billion naira fraud. Otudeko fails to appear in court. Lawyers refuse undertaking to produce him. March 17 fixed for ruling on jurisdiction. Ex-FBN MD Onasanya in court for defense. Edo Tribunal fixes addresses for March 3rd. You can find details on page 6. National Assembly passes 54.99 trillion naira 2025 budget estimate. Why CDS others were denied Canada visas. Ribadu's we have national American country, you can lashes rather American country. So we have why the CDS was denied Canada visa, and we have Ribadu lashes American, not American country. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 5. The big story on the Nation: Southwest governors join forces to ward off ISWAP and bandits. Joint surveillance technology boost for Motekun, creation of food hub in each state to bring down prices. You can find details on page 4. Central Bank of Nigeria to banks: don't limit ATM withdrawals below 20,000 naira. I believe this was one of the things we talked about concerning ATM bank limit withdrawals. Anyawu at his PDP decks. You can find details on page 5, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
All right, moving on to Blueprint newspaper. Tinubu approves recruitment of 50 doctors, 100 nurses for prison inmates. You can find more detail of that story on page 6. ATM charges necessary for market efficiency. This is coming from expert. And then under 20 AFCON, Flying Eagles face Egypt, South Africa, and Morocco, with detail of the story found on page 32. And the big story regarding the missing rifles: IGP fault audit report seek discreet closed-door investigation. The writer following that big story here says custom hands over 3,897 rifles, cartridges to Arms Control Center. Weapons will be treated in line with international convention. This is coming from the NSA. More detail of the story can be found on page 8. Marine and Blue Economy Agency generated 850.324 billion naira in 2024, coming from Oyetola. Downside of the paper: National Assembly passes 54.9 trillion naira 2025 budget after 750 billion naira was increased. Initially, it was just 54.2. Still looking at it, we have tax Tinubu on early presentation of 2026 appropriation bill. Also still on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper: include Northeast in super highway project. This is coming from Senate. NOA and SCC partner to address challenges facing. Wike pledges to complete critical infrastructures. You can do well to read more detail, and we can see the picture story showing the FCT minister and then with others. This was during the inspection of works on the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal in Abuja yesterday. And that's all on Blueprint newspaper.
On First News newspaper: Canada can go to hell. Ribadu slams CDS officers visa denial. Military kills 75 terrorists, rescue 46 kidnapped victims. CBN warns bank against limiting ATM withdrawals below 20,000 naira. Lagos BRT fares to rise by 18% from February 17. Iworiso Maxine hails Dewey on 5th anniversary as governor. The big story, forgive and forget. The question, MTN apologizes after shocking 200% data price hike. Senate calls on federal government to address deplorable roads nationwide. COAS orders troops to crush security threats in Benue and surrounding states. National Assembly passes 54.9 trillion naira 2025 budget. We have a picture where we can see the Southwest governors in action, united for regional growth and security. We can see Governor Adeleke, we have Sanwo-Olu and also Prince Dapo and others, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, the big story regarding electricity at medicine, hidden costs of providing healthcare in darkness, where we can see the doctors struggling with lack of power as a result of what is happening in the hospitals. You can do a read more detail of this big story on pages 4 and 5. Critical questions prioritizes as National Assembly passes record 54.99 trillion naira budget, with detail of this found in the paper. And then when you look at the breakdown, about 14 trillion naira will be used to settle our talking about our debts, and then also we're seeing that the highest about 29 trillion naira will be used for capital expenditure. So you can do well to look at the breakdown of what this money will be used for in the paper. Southwest governors partner on regional development plan joint security team against bandits. Asaba bans activities of unregistered native doctors. You can read detail of that on page 29. On loan controversy, Onyesanya appears in court to clear name. And then as well we have NSA criticizes Canadian embassy for refusing CDS and others visa. MTN PEX call rate at 13.8 naira per minute, apologizes for the 200% data price hike. And that is where the question on the former paper, where MTN were asking their subscribers to please forgive and forget, because they have no choice but to actually increase their bundle rate as well as even other services. Custom intercept large cake of arms and ammunition in Lagos. And then downside, UI medical student protest hall exemption from restore power to the UCH, and they say they will keep protesting until power is being restored to their hostels as well as even their halls. So you can do well to read more detail of the story, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On Daily Independent, NECA seeks effective adjudication process in resolving industrial dispute. NECA seeks effective adjudication process in resolving industrial disputes. Tinubu's reforms yielding fruits, restoring stability, a statement from the Southwest governors. Float regional security surveillance outfit, Southwest to have food inflation monitoring team. The big story on the paper, National Assembly passes 54.99 trillion naira 2025 budget, raises own share to 344.85 billion naira. Senate charges federal government on bad roads, wants not ease in highway project. Federal government okays employment of 50 doctors, 100 nurses for correctional centers. Tinubu committed to workers' welfare, minimum wage review. Vice President Shatima is saying. Customs hands over 3,897 intercepted rifles cartridges to NSA. You can find details on page 6. CBN warns bank imposing withdrawal limits below 20,000 naira per transaction. Still on Daily Independent, federal government mulls reduction of agencies at seaports for seamless operations, raises committee to float private sector-led national flag carrier, woos private investors to improve port facilities. The last story here, Lagos raises BRT fares by 18% from February 17, and that's all the news on Daily Independent.
On the Punch newspaper, Southwest governors plan joint operation against ISWAP terrorists. Federal government ex-envoy slam Canada for denying military chiefs visa. Yahoo boys now involved in ritual killing and banditry, coming from the EFCC chairman. This is long overdue. I mean, it has been happening for a while. Northwest communities blame fresh killing on troops withdrawal. So we hope that the troops will actually go back so that we can reduce all of these killings that are ongoing presently. The big story for the paper is regarding the 54.99 trillion naira budget. Expert lists funding hurdles as debt servicing takes 14 trillion naira. The writers say lawmaker approve 344.85 billion naira for themselves, salaries, overhead, gob, huge share of budget. So you can do well to find out why they did that in the paper. Ogun Ondo clash over ownership of oil-rich island. Custom delivers 3,897 arms ammunition to control center. And then the last story, which is on the loan controversy, Oyesanya defends self in court, and that is all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, crackdown troops neutralized 75 terrorists, recovered two calibrated aircraft engines. You can find details on page 2. Insecurity responsible for zero-dose immunization in 4 plateau LGAs. This is a report coming from a health official. I believe the government needs to look into that. You can find details on page 2. The big story on the paper, National Assembly passes 54.99 trillion naira 2025 budget. Missing 3,907 firearms, Police Fault Auditor General's report. Make recruitment of first-class graduate into DSS national policy, DG tells the federal government. NNPC reduces petrol pump price to 945 naira per litre. Tinubu's foreign exchange policy revolutionized Nigeria airline operations, Okonkwo is saying. We hope to see that eventually. You can find details on page 2, and that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Metric newspaper, Nigeria surpasses OPEC crude oil production quota of 1.5 million barrels per day. The writer here says Dangote refinery tip to boost Nigeria's crude production. So looking at the paper here, we have National Assembly passes 54.99 trillion naira 2025 budget proposal. Urges Tinubu to present the budget to National Assembly 3 months before the new fiscal year. So this is ahead 2026 budget. So he is meant to present it 3 months before the end of the year. Federal government dedicates to workers' welfare wage reform, coming from Shetima. The big story, you are doing well, Southwest governors praise Tinubu. The writer following that story says president's reform yielding fruits, restoring stability. Flood regional security surveillance outfit to address e-swap threats. Applaud implementation of Nigerian education loan fund, and then Southwest to have food inflation monitoring team. Southwest to have food inflation monitoring team. Detail found on page 2. Lagos government increased BRT fares by 18%, cite rising operational costs. Custom arrest 13 suspects, hand over 3,897 arms and ammunition to NCCSALW. Ribado blasts Canada over visa denial for Nigerian military chiefs, with detail found on page 9. We have the picture story, Southwest governors meet, and then as well we also have an entertainment story you can read on page 20, and that's all the Metric newspaper.
The first story on Nigerian Tribune, loan controversy. When Nasanya appears in court to clear name, the writer says it's civil matter, loan fully paid, Otudeko's lawyer tell court. National Assembly passes 54.9 trillion naira 2025 budget. The writer says adds 700 billion naira to Tinubu's 54.2 trillion naira South, Southeast, Southwest to benefit from anticipated supplementary budget for rail transportation. After reconnecting UCH, College of Medicine students protest over IBEDC's refusals to reconnect halls of residence. Federal government to reduce agencies of government at seaport to 7, to dredge Apapa Tin Can port to 17 meters. You can find details on page 6. The big story on the paper: Southwest governors to set up joint team to combat ISWAP's threat. To establish food inflation joint monitoring team, Southwest Development Commission headquarters to be at Cocoa House, Ibadan. Nigeria meets OPEC's crude oil production quota of 1.5 million barrels per day, and I believe that this is good news. So maybe eventually we will see our budget estimate meeting up due to the fact that we are starting to meet our OPEC quota. NSA lashes at Canadian Embassy for denying CDS other senior military officers visa. Three drunk London Lagos bound Air Peace passengers arrested at MMIA. You can find details on page 12, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Vanguard newspaper, Oyetola reaffirms commitment to marine resource development. National Assembly passes 54.9 trillion naira 2025 budget. And on visa denial, Canada, this is still coming from what Ricardo is saying regarding the fact that he's not happy about the denial. 1,949 massacre of coal miners, families sue federal government, UK government, and others. And this is what happened. And this is actually in Enugu State, where the families are asking for compensation because of these miners that were killed in the 1949. So this is really a very sad one. We hope the government will look into this case that actually happened a long time ago. The big story on the paper: banks limited ATM withdrawal below 20,000 to face CBN penalty. So we hope that they will rectify the withdrawal on their paper, on their ATM rather. Any bank that compels a customer with sufficient fund in his or her account to withdraw less than 20,000 naira per transaction against the customer's desire for a higher sum will be contravening his regulation spirit and sanctioned appropriately. This is a CBN circular, so maybe you can do well to spare a buy and snap this out in case you go to an ATM and then you are withdrawn below 20,000 naira. Regarding telecoms, MTN backpedals, reverses 200% data tariff hike. Labour demands sanction over alleged impunity. The picture story here: Southwest governors meet in Lagos. We can see them present there. As well, Senate asks federal government to repair bad roads nationwide. Still on Vanguard newspaper: influx of ISWAP, Boko Haram, Southwest governors more creation of joint security outfit. And on loan controversy, Onyesanya goes to court to clear his name. And on Sport 2025 under 20 AFCON, Flying Eagles in group of death. You can read more detail of that story, and that's all on Vanguard newspaper.
On the Matrix Sport newspaper, the big story: UEFA adds Vinicius, Bellingham, Upamecano, 9 others in Champions League team, that is UEFA 11. And EPL: Nottingham Forest boss positive about Muni's injury. Russia lines up Super Eagles friendly in June. And we have Arsenal's title push suffers setback as injury sideline Havertz for rest of season. We still have the Premier League table and the La Liga table. Real Madrid is still at the top for La Liga, and Liverpool still ahead of Arsenal with 7 points difference. And that's all the news on the Matrix Sport newspaper.
On Friday, leadership newspaper: minimum wage must be implemented in FCT area councils, coming from the FCT Minister Wike. Defense headquarters launches operation to rehabilitate former bandits in Northeast. 3 passengers arrested on Air Peace London Lagos flight. You can read why they were arrested on page 20. The big story: 2027 gone up. And we have Ariwa Consultative Forum, Afenifera renew stance on rotational presidency. With the rider not kingmaker can produce president alone, coming from Ariwa Group. There is understanding between the North and South. This is coming from Afenifera. You can read detail of that, and I think this is regarding the statement being made by the APC chairman, the fact that the president should spend 8 years and then the North can take over after the 8 years. And it's quite sad that we're having the chairman saying such rather than let's look into competence and not just about the rotation, whether people are capable or not. And it's quite sad. I wanted making the statement, Rachel, on the day we saw that coming from Ganduji, because it's quite sad that we have elders in the country not looking at is the president competent enough? It's a question. They should sit back and say, okay, what can he do for the next 2 years so that actually Nigerians can say, you know what, the president deserves another 4 years. Not for you to come and make it more look like you are imposing the president on Nigerians. They have the right to go to the polls and change it if they feel they are not okay with the present president, rather than saying the president is going to spend 8 years and then after that they are not can take. What happened? Maybe after the 8 years, the South can say, you know what, we want an Igbo man to be the president. So what are we going to do about that? So we've said that it's good that we rotate it, but as well, let's look into people who are competent enough to serve Nigeria. I think that should be the bone of contention and not whether the president must spend 8 years or not.
Even if we are going to go for the rotational, way of governing and say, okay, after the West, the North is not next in line, Sele. We've already had we've had Buhari doing his 8 years from Katsina, and that is the North. And now if it's in the West, automatically it can't go back to the North. We have other geopolitical regions that if we are going to rotate, it's supposed to be there. Thought we can look at the Southeast or so, yes, next, before perhaps it comes back to the North and all of that. But you see, when you're giving this, not only are they imposing the fact that Tinubu must do 8 years, they're also imposing the fact that the North gets to do immediately after the West, which if we are talking about rotation, it have not properly rotated to the right people yet. There's everything wrong with the politics in Nigeria. It feels like people are outrightly telling you we are in control, we have taken over. It's no longer democracy. We say this is what will happen, and at the end of the day it must happen that way. And then you can't help but wonder, do I even need to go to the polls come 2027 if we already have people coming out with such certainty that 2027 is ours? Well, you can wait, the North can have their start 2031 and so on and so forth, when it's not supposed to be like that. So these are the questions that Nigerians will ask, and it's disturbing on a lot of level, because you wonder, are we really practicing democracy, or we're in illusion, thinking or believing that our system is democratic, but no, it's already bought, paid for, and the outcome is already there. We're just waiting to reach there, and then the results are out there regardless of your choice as a citizen of the country. So it is what it is. But then Nigerians, I think, can prove otherwise, that it is our country and we can be in control of it, but only if, Sele, we truly want a better Nigeria. Then we can take that decision and define the cause of democracy and say, Gantujo, you're not the final say. You don't get to tell us who spends 8 years and who doesn't get to stay for that long in power.
Of course, and that's why I love what the Ariwa group are saying. Not keymaker can't produce a president alone. So you can look into that story, a bit more detail of it on page 4. State on Friday leadership, National Assembly passes 54.99 trillion naira 2025 budget. As well, we have the NSA berates Canadian Embassy for denying the Chief of Defense Staff and others visa. More data found on page 15. We also have the Leadership Gold Standard Award Picture Series. Here we are having Governor Imba, Governor of the Year 2024, and he is saying this reward is a reflection of our commitment to Enugu's development. More detail of any other story can be found inside the paper.
On Punch Sport Extra, the big story, Abby Peace exclusive, my special Valentine gift. She said, I once received 130,000 naira as Val gift. It was monetized by a friend because I was busy with training and couldn't join him for a treat. I wonder why this story made it on the paper, but it is the big story. And if you want to find details, you can find it on page 6. United, Arsenal, Chelsea keen on Osimhen. Atletico target Lookman as Griezmann's replacement. We have Flying Eagles get tough under-20 AFCON draw. Murphy resumes training after 8-month absence. Ghana's open Martinelli contract talks. I don't support United Kingstown's fans. And we have Maresca confirms Jorgensen, Chelsea's #1 keeper. Ronaldo, highest paid athlete in 2024. Opeori, confident of Nigeria's progress at African Badminton Championships. Fury gets deadline to secure Joshua showdown, and that's all the news on Punch Sport Extra.
On Business Day newspaper, Nigerians Grammy journey from King Sunny Ade to Thames. You can read more details of what has been happening in the entertainment industry regarding Grammy Awards. Still on Business Day newspaper, $100 million opportunity investors can't ignore. You can read more detail of that story in the paper. And then as well, we have Mildred and Kingsley Okonkwo dynamic marriage influencers. You can read more detail of that. 7 affordable European destinations. So in case you want to travel, you can do well to read that on page 30. And that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On New Nigerian, UK moves to halt cancer in FCT. Shun APC e-registration, NYA tells Nigerian youth. Says APC has nothing to offer apart from hunger, hardship. NYA targets registering 50 million members nationwide. National Assembly passes 54.99 trillion naira 2025 record high budget. Lagos boss tackles ex-governor Otom over killing, mass burial claims in Agatu. We have local government boss tackles ex-governor Otom over killings and mass burial claims in Agatu. You can find details on page 17. Dangote's contribution to Nigeria's economy unparalleled. This is a statement from Ogun Speaker. Dangote shines at Gateway Trade Fair. Obasani vows enhance healthcare delivery, commissions farmer and grade warehouse. You can find details on page 12. Reposition Nigeria Polytechnic System ex-Unilag VC demand. Delivers Ibadan Poly 39 convocation lecture. Still on the paper, Benue Assembly queries legitimacy of newly established BEQA. Middle Belt Forum reaffirms solidarity with FCT natives, laments losing of homes by over 1 million indigenous persons. Recognized Etsu Lokoja Stu, Kogi resident in Kaduna appeal to Governor Ododo. Air Force mobile police officers fight dirty in Delta over arrested suspected criminal. And that's all the news on New Nigerian.
On Daily Sun newspaper, Southwest governors form team to tackle terrorism and food insecurity. Judiciary workers threaten strike over minimum wage, issue 7-day ultimatum. We hope that something will be done before they finally close the courts. 54.9 trillion naira budget, prioritize infrastructure. Manufacturers tell the federal government, and maybe that is why they actually gave the huge sum of over 23 trillion naira to be used for all of these infrastructures and others. And then we have National Assembly passes the increased 2025 budget, which is a rider following the big story. Senate wants Northeast included in superhighway. Tinubu approves 50 doctors, 100 nurses for prison inmate. Nigeria strengthens aviation ties with UAE at the ICAO. Delta CP seek investigation into alleged attack. You can do well to read detail of that. We have 2 picture stories on the front page. Do well to get the paper, read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you, and as well as how far we can go in the program this morning. So thank you so much for always keeping a date with us. We hope you have a great and a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye for now.